Andy, it's Championship Friday in the Pounder household today. So we got state championship
All
today
right.
up in Durham. I think it's like the Durham Memorial um, Stadium. Us, Charlotte Catholic versus Cardinal Gibbons. Rematch of last year's state championship, Andy. It was interesting. Like last year, we played Cardinal Gibbons. Cardinal Gibbons and Charlotte Catholic are like two of the top two schools in the state. So we play every year anyways in the regular season, and then they usually make it to the playoffs together. Both years, Cardinal Gibbons has beaten us pretty good in the regular season, but then last year in the state championship game, they were up by, 4 or 5 goals, and then we came all the way back, and then one of our players got a 2-minute penalty that's in girls lacrosse you can't come out of the box for,
Okay.
and they scored like three straight goals, and that was the end of it. But it was a great game. My daughter was a sophomore at the time. She had only started some of the games. There was an injury, and she started the championship game. She played well, but this year she's become a team leader on the team, and it should be interesting. I don't know if they'll win, but I think it's going to be a really good game, and I'm excited for that team. So fun day for us today.
Hey, I'm excited for you guys, Dave. Championship Friday. Want you to come back Monday, tell us how your daughter won states. But I've got to say, as you talk about, Durham, my mind instantly went to Raleigh, Durham, and the World League of American Football. Do you remember that, Dave? Do you remember early
Mm.
'90s, a previous
Yeah.
incarnation of spring ball, and we had I want to say like 1990, 91. We had the Raleigh Durham Skyhawks, right? And we had your Orlando Thunder, and then you had
Yeah.
like I think there was teams in Frankfurt and I don't know, Barcelona maybe, and like some was like three international teams. Like I thought that was awesome when that came out as a kid, and so I'm not trying to take away from your daughter's celebration. Very
Yeah,
excited
of
in the
course.
Patter household, but World League of American Football, Dave, are you there? Should we bring that back? You think?
I tell you, well, we're gonna be in with the NFL pretty soon. We're gonna have it's gonna be a world NFL, I think, pretty
Yeah,
soon. And
yeah,
I fully expect that there's gonna be internet within 10 years, there will be a division that is wholly international.
yeah.
Um, so how they're gonna work out the scheduling, they'll figure it out. I'm sure somehow a team will go over and play a month or something in Europe, play the four teams in Europe or something. But there's just too much love of football over in Europe, I think, Andy. But the World League, that was a fun. You remember they had the weird helmets too, it was a little bit different. They like the thicker face masks and all this other stuff. You're looking at me like, whatever, Dave.
I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. So the one thing about the Durham Memorial Stadium, Andy, there used to be a time when stadiums were like the War Memorial or all this other stuff. They don't have that anymore. There's too much money in naming rights and all this
Yeah,
other stuff,
yeah.
like Crypto Center or whatever the hell they have out there, Wells Fargo Center or TD Bank or something. Too much money in there. But I kind of miss the old war memorials. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. The old Soldier Fields, and
yeah.
and there were some cool. We'll get we'll get them out of a certain next stadium here, pretty soon, Dave. I think we'll
We can give them
negotiate
five. We can give them $5. That should make something.
it.
Andy, on the sports front, though, the NFL schedule did come out this week.
Yeah,
Did you get a chance to look at it?
I did, and the lines. I saw a call last night. I think it was from Bleacher Report, predicting the lines to go 13-4, and I was like, heavens medicine, if we can go 13-4, I'd be delighted. I think it's a brutal schedule.
Yeah.
That's the price you pay when you're in the championship game. You get a tough schedule. It's a rough one. I mean, every game is like, they're kind of good, So it's going to be interesting. There's a good, Detroit Dallas rematch, Dave. I think week 6. I'm looking forward to. Great slate of Sunday night games. The Lions open up on Sunday night versus the Rams, come back like around week 9 or so against the Texans. But with the exception of one Giants game on the schedule for Sunday night, there's nothing but good football on Sunday night games. It's gonna be a fun season, but yeah, the Lions have their work cut out to them. The road to New Orleans will be a tough one.
Well, and the Lions don't have that surprise anymore. Everyone knows they're a good team. Everyone knows they've got skill players. Everyone knows that Goff's a steady quarterback unless you get pressure on him or whatever. Everyone knows their defense is getting. You can't surprise anymore, so it will be tougher. Look, I mean, I think it's shown out over the last couple weeks. If you can get to 10, 11 wins, you put yourself in a decent position, 7 playoff teams in each conference. You just can't have the like those mind-numbing losses sometimes that you really look back and say you got to win. And I think that's where the Lions have done pretty well over the last couple of years. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah,
There's a lot of talk about the Jets. The Jets got 6 primetime games
yeah,
in the first 11 weeks. That's the most since the merger in 1970, Andy. That's pretty crazy because I think this team fucking sucks.
yeah.
And I don't like the Aaron Rodgers, yeah, like magic. Look, the guy's over 40. Not to say he can't still play, but even the GOAT Tom Brady, I know that roils you a little bit, Andy, but even the GOAT Tom Brady started declining a little bit there. Not necessarily that he could still throw the ball and put some zip on it, but just again, like the speed of the game gets you after a while. And look, when you tear your Achilles, I mean, it's not like you're well, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers may go back into the dark room and
Yeah.
get that voodoo magic on him. I don't know. But that was interesting call out of the schedule, Andy.
Yeah, I hope it's a bust, to be honest. I think that, he might come back and play really well. I would love to see the Jets be absolutely terrible this year. Aaron Rodgers' career to go out with the same whimper that he went out in Green Bay as Detroit beat him in that last home game. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, good schedule. Is it Adam Schefter, I think, at the NFL? Adam Schefter put together like a whole every game in the NFL matrix. This is
Mhm.
insane to look at. But you're right, the Jets are in a lot of primetime games. We get people making fun of the Giants for every reason, right? From the lack of a roster to their throwback uniforms, which are horrendous.
Oh,
To
I was gonna. That was gonna be my next topic, Andy. You didn't like the throwbacks?
the Giants throwbacks, no, no. I mean, look, the Giants have great colors, right? They're like super primary colors that look great, but no, those throwbacks they're awful, Dave. They're terrible.
Oh, I see. I disagree. I really look. They're unusual, but they're connected to their history. Now, look, I love the giant uniform. I don't like the giant uniforms from like the 80s and the early 90s. I like the ones where like Eli was wearing during the Super Bowls. I like that version of it, and I love it when they wear the red, but I thought these were pretty of all the throwback uniforms, like the ones I hate are like the Green Bay ones and the Steeler ones. Those are just
Yeah, those are
awful.
terrible. Yeah, those are
Those are
terrible.
terrible. Like it looks like somebody threw up on you or something. I kind of dig these. Okay, all right, that's interesting. All right, I'll go with you a little bit there, Andy. We'll see. So, and not surprisingly, Andy, I did not check out the Cowboys schedule. I don't give a fuck because until January comes around, this team's got to show me more than whatever's on their schedule. They always do well on their schedule, whatever, like playoff time, boys. And I love, the whole thing came up to you. We talked on Wednesday, the Jared Goff stuff, Andy.
Yeah.
Of course, they're saying, "Whoa, what's the Cowboys doing with Dak Prescott?" Hey, Dak, win a fucking couple playoff games, and let's talk. Get your team to the NFC Championship game like Goff did, and maybe we can talk about it. So, I'm yeah, not surprisingly, I don't care. So,
Well, I'll just throw this out to you, Dave. That same Bleacher Report 2024 prediction scorecard, they had the Cowboys, their call for the Cowboys, I was surprised to see this, calling them at 8-9, which
yeah.
is, so, you know,
Well, they don't have a running back. I mean, they got Ezekiel Elliott came back to the fold, and he wants to bring a ring to Dallas. That's why he came back, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's because nobody else wanted you, and we're going to pay you because we don't have a running back. Yeah, that's great. Andy, a little other NFL news. Netflix is yeah. So Netflix is. You remember the days where you had it was the DVD mail in. You had
Loved
to
it.
do the mailing.
Yeah. The death of
Um,
Blockbuster.
Yeah, well, and I like the thing about the mailing too is like yeah, the if your next in the queue was not available, you had to wait a little bit. And you're like, wait,
Yeah.
am I still getting my next in queue and all this other stuff? And then they, of course, they revolutionized the streaming world by
Yeah.
becoming an online form, and just really took off. Uh, and now there's always been the discussion is like Netflix is just a repository for old stuff. They have some new content, not as much as they used to when they used to have the orange is the new black. They used to have a couple really good shows, House of Cards. Um, but then last year, Andy, they were trying to bring in more live events. They had the Chris Rock special, which drew a big audience, mostly because it was his first prime special after the Will Smith slap at the Oscars. So that went well in the live thing. They had the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah.
They're getting the WWE next year for Raw. It's Monday Night Raw, their big wrestling event of the week. So that's a live event, and that's going to bring a lot of content to them. And now, Andy, they're dipping their toe into the football world. So, a couple games are pulling into the queue. How are you feeling about Netflix, Andy?
I mean, good for Netflix. I mean, I think the evolution of that company is just fantastic, right? I mean, they continue to evolve and stay relevant, and I think it's awesome, right? I mean, they crushed Blockbuster, the movie giant, because it was an organization that didn't evolve, right? Netflix came in, it was just revolutionary. Everybody loved it, and then when they transitioned to streaming, it was amazing, and now incorporating live events, another significant transition. So I think it's very interesting in that sense. For football fans, this sucks, right? The continued diversification of where to find your football games is just a nightmare for football fans because, like I think I think one of my sons was telling me that it now costs more to like get all the streaming services to watch the NFL games than it does to have season tickets to watch the Carolina Panthers, which says a lot about the Panthers, but it also says a lot about how crazy it is right now to keep up with all the different places where you can watch the NFL. So I think fans lose in this overall,
Mhm.
but we talked about it before. That comes down to when do fans say enough's enough, and so far we haven't gotten there. And it seems like everybody has Netflix. So if you want to watch two Christmas football games, have at it. Netflix makes it available. I know everybody wants to watch, the Ravens and Texans. I hate the idea of those guys playing on Christmas. I think it stinks, but it's just what the NFL wants to do. So have at it.
Yeah, it'll be two Christmas Day games as part of their 3-year deal. It's also the first time they'll be playing on a Wednesday because Christmas falls on a Wednesday
No,
during that time. Yeah, this is a big thing because now you have NBC for the Sunday night games, Fox and CBS for the weekday games. You have Amazon for your Thursday night games. And then you have now Netflix, where it does add up over time. But
no,
this is where, unfortunately, this is where these league rights things are going, and the NFL can certainly do it. We talked about the NBA a little while ago. They're doing a lot of the same thing too. It hasn't been officially announced, but those rights deals are up, and it looks like ESPN is going to keep a big amount for ABC and ESPN, and then you're going to also have um, NBC is going to come into the mix, and they're also talking about like an Amazon service or something, another streaming service coming in there as well.
yeah.
It's going to make it hard, I think, for groups to follow. Which game is this on? What network is this on? What streamer is this on? Where do I have to find that game? It's not as easy as it used to be, and I think that's going to lead to an interesting dynamic, I think. So,
Yeah, yeah, I think it's frustrating for fans for sure. But yeah, we'll roll with it. Might be watching more Red Zone than full games at times this season, and that's okay because Red Zone's awesome.
well, I can hard unless the Cowboys are playing, I'll typically go to a red zone game, um, and watch red zone all through the day. It's just on in the background the whole time. So even though I'm not big on the fantasy anymore. Okay, Andy, let's transition. Anything more on the NFL or sports? We
Ready
spend
to
a
pivot.
little bit.
Ready to pivot. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk, Andy, about debates. Andy,
Ooh, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no
Sorry.
politics, Andy. So, the debate schedule, there's been an agreement. I didn't think this was ever going to happen,
Yeah,
but here it is. Biden has agreed to debate Trump 2 times. This is outside of the Presidential Election Commission, which is unique in one way. It means they can exclude RFK Jr. because the way the rules work, Andy, is the Presidential Election Commission. If somebody has 15% of like the vote in polling, they get invited.
yeah,
And RFK Jr. is polling about 16%. He would have been invited had they done it, agreed under this. As it is, this is a way to keep third parties out. They agreed on the side on their own
Yeah.
to two debates. And here we go. I think there's been a lot of discussions. I think one, it was Biden who initiated more of this, even though Trump has been like, let's debate, let's debate, let's debate. Biden's initiated a lot of this, and he's got a lot of anger. He feels like he's being, I guess this is his way of taking control back of the narrative, as we do in politics, Andy. So what do you think when you saw the debate announcement?
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised an important point there, right? And I think this, not that the Commission of Presidential Debates is any good, right? I mean, it's Republicans and Democrats making the rules of the debate, so it's always had a political cock blocking effect on third parties. It's very hard to make the bar to get into those debates, which again is bad for America, right? Because if Americans could hear other candidates besides these two grumpy old men, they might be interested in them, right? And so while I agree there has to be a level of viability, it's a high bar. 15% is a pretty high bar. And the other requirement, the CNN has is you've got to be on the ballot in enough states to actually win the presidency, which makes sense. It makes sense. But this really effectively takes it out of the commission's rules, and it's just a, hey, it lets you and me debate, old boy conversation. That probably restricts the Libertarian candidate from getting into the debates, despite being on all 50 state ballots. That potentially blocks Green Party or other independent candidate. And in the case of RFK, he's not on the ballot in all the states yet. Which you talked about on our last episode, Dave, I think, where he's working towards that, but he's got the percentage, and so this just sort of blocks that out. So while I'm seeing a lot of, mostly on the Biden side, supporters sort of poo-pooing on RFK Jr. for making the point that, hey, this is a political cock block, and there's RFK's whining. I think it's a legitimate one, right? Because I think that there's probably some level of, hey, we don't need a third party voice here. Let's keep it 1v1 and ignore these other guys. I think there's probably some level of that going on between the Biden and Trump camps. And I think that's really a great disservice to America. Now I know that they'll both say, and their supporters will both say, that's not what's happening here. It's got nothing to do with third parties or RFK. I personally just think that may or may not be true. I don't know if that's really legitimately true. And I think, again, I think Americans suffer when Americans don't get to hear more voices. I think Mitt Romney, Dave said that this is like watching the two old men Muppet characters. I love the old men and the Muppets. I do not love Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And so I think he's being generous in making that comparison. I really think it's a disservice to America.
You're really going to go out on a limb, Andy, that they would like there's not that a lot of that discussion going on about excluding those two. Yeah, I think they're very concerned. They don't want to give RFK Jr. any amount of space. They don't want to give anybody any amount of space because again, they fear I don't know, correctly or incorrectly, they fear that they're going to take away the votes for them. Hey, look, if you had a policy or a program or a platform to run on, then you should run on that and feel confident in that. I think both of these people, Trump and Biden, have things to stand on in their record, but unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen on this debate. The debate is going to turn into some mockery or sideshow, and it's just going to be a ridiculous discussion. I barely watch any of these things anymore, Andy, so it's just very challenging. Where does RFK Jr. go from here, Andy? I think obviously he's working his ass off to get on the states, all the ballots, as many as he can. He's clearly not going to get on all of them. And that really impacts his ability to get, like, if he's a legitimate candidate, he's got to have a pathway to 270.
Yeah.
So where does he go from here? Does he just kind of run counter programming to kind of do town hall? Where would you go?
Well, I think, I mean, where I would go, of course, would be to coronate myself king and call it a day. But that's neither here nor there. 'Cause I think for RFK, I think what's going to be interesting, the Libertarian Party convention occurs over Memorial Day weekend, right? Trump's going to speak there. RFK is going to speak there. RFK challenged Trump to a debate there. That won't happen, right? But it'll be interesting what plays out at the Libertarian Party convention because they will nominate somebody, be it RFK or anybody else. That person will have ballot access in all 50 states. That is an interesting dynamic, and potentially that person could appeal to enough people at a time when people are just yearning for somebody else, anybody else, to to garner that 15% threshold over a few months' time. Some people poo-poo on the Libertarian Party for having their convention so late. That's customarily when they've done it. But that'll be interesting to see. And so coming out this weekend, or next weekend, you'll have a Libertarian nominee, and that may or may not be RFK. And RFK, he says he will be on the ballot in office days. He's working towards it. Does he have the financial means and the ground game to get there? I don't know, but it's still a long time till November, so he might. He might. So I think we're going to continue to see an interesting, story play out in the coming months ahead. Again, because nobody wants Biden Trump too, and so people are looking for alternatives. And even though there's a lot of sort of squashing of RFK publicly, he's actually getting a fair amount of attention. He's actually getting a fair amount of attention, and I think the Libertarian nominee, once selected, will also start to get some of the attention because it's a year when people are craving something else. So I think we're going to see a lot happen here in June and July on the ground. And then as we get past Labor Day, I think it's going to be a very interesting and different discussion. People just genuinely don't want this two option race that we're stuck in. And again, that's not condemnation of either of the two candidates. I mean, I'll condemn them otherwise, but people just want choice, and they're not getting it from these two guys.
Yeah, it's very challenging, Andy. Okay, so we'll see how that continues to play out here, Andy, and go from there. Andy, I did want to hit one more story with you, and it kind of goes back to the NFL just a little bit. Did you see the scuttlebutt over Harrison Butker? I think that's how
Yeah,
you say his last name. The Kansas City Chief kicker.
yeah.
He's well accomplished, but I don't know why he was chosen to give a commencement speech at a college, but he gave a commencement speech at Benedictine College, which is a small Catholic school in Kansas. He made some pretty, I guess, weird comments about women. I guess that's the nice way to say it. Basically, he said that women's place is in the home, and they've been told this big lie about they should be chasing these professional accomplishments and awards and all this other stuff. Basically, their life begins when they become mothers and wives and mothers, to flip it around. Pretty uh, uh, I don't know what else to say, Andy, but that's pretty bold statements to make. I would think, Andy.
Yeah, yeah, and you can read his full comments. People, if they want to really weigh in, probably should check out some of his full remarks just to make sure that there's context. Because people are cherry picking a lot, but he did really emphasize sort of the idealism of a stay-at-home mom, and being a mother. And hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, my wife stayed home for 10 years with our children, but that's a choice, right? That's a choice that a family makes, that a woman makes, and that isn't the right fit for everybody and isn't even financially viable for everybody, right? So, there's a lot of ways to achieve who you want to be in life and to be the person you want to be. For some people, for some women, that might be a path through motherhood. For others, it may not be. They may not want to have children. They may be unable to have children. They may want to have children and do something else professionally. And, we have no right to tell somebody else what's best for them. And it's a dangerous game to sort of try and suggest that you have to do X, Y, or Z to be fulfilled as a person, especially for a man. For a man to tell women this is what you need to do to be, to sort of achieve your maximum, capacity. It's a pretty bold type thing to say. So, it's hard when you're a public figure, as he is. I mean, he's a great kicker, on the championship football team. You're going to get blowback when you make controversial remarks. He feels like he's living his faith that way. Personally, I don't think you have to throw your faith in front of people's faces as aggressively as sometimes people do, but it's a choice he made. He's getting a lot of blowback for it. The NFL is distancing themselves from his remarks. It's a woman can do anything she wants to do. I commend women for being mothers. I commend stay-at-home moms. I think it's an incredibly hard job. So I have great respect for a stay-at-home mom. I don't think they get enough credit for the demands of being a stay-at-home mom. But a woman doesn't have to do that to be incredible, right? They can be any profession under the sun, and we should honor and respect that, whatever capacity it is that a woman chooses to live her life.
Yeah, well said, Andy. I couldn't agree more on all your points. I think so. He's, of course, those on the right are praising it. Those on the left are picking it apart. And then in the middle, Andy, you've got the Swifties. You pissed off the Swifties, Andy. And so, and that you just have to be prepared now for all sorts of blowback because he referenced the Taylor Swift song, a comment in there, and basically implying that even though she's hugely successful, she's not living up to her full potential because she doesn't have kids. This is, or not married or have kids, and so whatever. I found it interesting because again, I didn't hear anything about it, and then all of a sudden it starts blowing up,
Yeah.
and then with the schedule release, the NFL then is making comments, having to make comments about Butker and how he doesn't live up to their expectations. Look, the NFL, this is a tough issue for NFL. If you haven't noticed, they're trying to court a lot of female fans. And there's a lot of women who love the NFL just as much as anyone else. And
Yeah.
um, a lot of great stuff out there. And so, yeah, unfortunate how this is being played out, but we'll see how it develops over time and any additional blowback. It could be interesting in the locker room, Andy. So with Travis Kelce and and him. So that was some time to
Yeah,
prepare
yeah,
for that.
that locker room, as long as he's putting it through the uprights every time,
Yeah,
they're going to complain, right? And he's entitled to his opinion, right? I mean, that
yeah, yeah,
I don't think the NFL team will care, but from an optics standpoint, it's certainly, again, I'm not condemning his remarks. He's allowed to say whatever he wants to say and believe. It's just the form. He really threw himself out there, and
yeah.
you know, I think I kind of like, hey, it's nothing wrong with having your beliefs, but he definitely put himself as a target for a lot of people that might disagree with him.
No, for sure. Okay, Andy. So, we're nearing the end here for our week. Anything going into the weekend you're looking forward to, Andy?
Dave, I'm gonna enjoy some music. I've got another road trip ahead of me tomorrow, so I'm gonna be enjoying that and maybe enjoying some new music and just checking that out. And now I think I'm looking forward to you guys having your big, hopefully celebratory state championship game. And Dave, I'll just throw this out there, just the sad news: the Chucky Cheese is retiring the animatronic band. So as I drive along this weekend, I'll maybe portal out for Chucky Cheese's band. Something we grew up with, that god awful mechanical band that they were. So, we'll all pour one out for the band, I think.
You're entitled to your opinion, Andy, but you're wrong. That's a legendary band. Their music was top notch when you ever went in there. Look, we've taken my daughter, our youngest one, back to Chuck E. Cheese. She used to like going. It's probably getting a little bit too big for her now, but she still likes going to the games. But they still had the animatronic band, and I enjoyed that coming out every so often. And you're like, yeah, so Chuck E. Cheese, a great staple. It was great when you had a snow day or something. That's my wife. We used to take the kids on snow
Yeah,
days to Chuck E.
yeah.
Cheese for lunch. The pizza, like, look, you can say what you want, but the pizza was good, was good there.
The
So
pizza and jumping into that big thing of balls that they used to, I don't think they have that anymore. But when we were kids, they had that big like pit of balls you could dive into and just, play and have fun. So
yeah,
definitely had its place.
that's a Gen X thing, Andy. Today they'd
Yeah,
have to have disinfectant all. They'd have to be
yeah,
spraying those balls every 5 minutes or something.
yeah. Because it was
Uh,
disgusting, but it was awesome.
Yeah, so many people probably urinated in there. Yeah, it's just not like that's the generation we're in, Andy. We're immune to all these other things because our skin is so hardened from all of these things over
Right,
time. So
right.
good stuff. Very appropriate way to end, Andy, because we are men of a certain X. We do appreciate all of that. So, Andy, hope you have a good weekend, good road trip. I'll be listening to the various stuff as we go up to Raleigh today and hopefully cheering on the way back. So,
Right.
all right, Andy,
Good
I'll
luck to
catch up
Zoe
with you.
Pounder.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'll catch up with you next time.